Godzilla series we'll be discussing. Yes. Godzilla. Yes. We have a local Godzilla expert, and we have Don Frye from Godzilla Final Wars coming out. And Don could talk to you about some of the other things he's been working on. He's just recently worked with Johnny Depp on a movie, so if everybody could kind of take a seat, and we'll get started with the next presentation. Do we have any Ultimate Fighting Champion fans in the room? We have one over there. Do we have any Bob Eggleton fans in the room? Do we have people that enjoy great artwork in the science fiction and fantasy realm? How many people read the Dark Horse Godzilla comics? Dark Horse comics featuring Bob's work. All right, so I'd like you to get your hands together for our own local Godzilla expert, the Hugo Award-winning Bob Eggleton, ladies and gentlemen.
Konnichiwa, as they say.
And joining Bob is the one and only Ultimate Fighting Champion. We all got to meet him in the Godzilla series and Godzilla Final Wars. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Don Frye.
All right, wake it up. Howdy, how you doing? I'm gonna sit down. I'm old and cold.
I've been sitting all day.
Yeah, you're lucky. My wife, we go out and she takes me on a 20-mile forced march every town we go into. So we've been out there hiking around the cold, blistering weather today. So I'm being kind of a weenie. Yeah.
Where do you live?
Tucson. Yeah.
We stopped there at Sedona, and you must be cold.
Oh man, it's 85 degrees back home right now.
This is cold even for us, really. It's like normally it's about 50, 40, high 40s, low 50s around now. Normally, this is midwinter stuff coming.
I was gonna say I've been here all my life. It's cold. I can't put an extra sweater on. But he's gonna be suffering like a puppet.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's not, as they say, it's not the cold, it's the wind.
Yeah.
Nice place.
It's the wind chill.
I think Arizona, it's a dry heat. Yeah. Hot's hot. Oh, how do y'all want to shoot this thing down here?
Well, we're just hanging out now, man.
You're just hanging out now, huh?
Just hanging out. I just usually wing these. I mean, we just have fun with it and whatever. The thing that is interesting is that Don and I both worked on the same movie, The Ant Bully, which was an animated movie from 2 years. Yeah, Don was you were a voice.
I was an ant.
You were an ant, a
was an
century ant, and
yeah.
I did conceptual design for how things looked. If you saw the wasps, a little bit of me in that. So it's kind of,
A little bit of you, huh?
yeah, a little bit of me. When they do conceptual art for movies, you do one design and you send it around to a whole bunch. They send it to a whole bunch of other artists, and they put their 2 cents into it, and then it gets redone and redrawn all together. And an animated movie like that, like The Ant Bully, took 3 years to do, which is short term in the U.S. But that would be an eternity making a movie in Japan. Because on the Godzilla movies, they spend better 3 months.
I was there for 3 months. Yeah, during the summer shooting it. And I don't know if you see the movie? Yeah, I had my Gestapo outfit on, the high riding boots and the leather pants and the leather trench coat and the hat, and the gloves, and it was rather warm in that outfit, I'll tell you.
And having been on Toho's Studio 9, my very good friend Shinichi Wakasa is involved. He did all the model work and the suit work that you see in the movie. He builds all the monster suits that we see in the movies. And Shinichi, they would film on stage 9, and they'd be filming elsewhere, the live action with Don on another stage. And the Japanese film sets, the stages, they're not air conditioned like we would have in here. It's not like that at all. It's very muggy and humid. And because the Japanese don't feel the heat like we feel the heat, they just don't sweat. It's amazing to watch. What's that? Yeah, well, and then they make a movie in this marathon way of doing it where it's like, starto, and then yo, and they start filming, and they'll film for 20 hours straight and to get what they need to get done. I was an extra in Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, which was fun because I got to run in that humidity they have, and it's nothing like you've ever felt anything here. You think it's humid here, Japan, it makes summer here look cool. And what had happened was I got to run from Godzilla, and this is down in Hakajima, and we ran for 8 hours straight on different ways. We had lunch. They gave us a boxed lunch. That was what we got. And a t-shirt and a pat on the back, you know. And the way they film in these movies is that it's marathon movie making. And you have to run for like, in different things. They'll say starto and yo, and you just have to move, and then they have to check it to see if they got it and all that. And they go back and then have you do it all over again, and then they'll have you do it all over again. And then the end of the movie, they used 8 seconds of footage. And you could just see me, a little bit of me running. So it was kind of fun. It was very interesting though, seeing how they make their movies from the inside out.
Yeah, we did a 24-hour shoot one day. And I tell you what, I got lucky. I got to sneak off, take a nap, you know, for a couple of hours. But man, they sign you up to work. They're going to work you. You know, it's like he says about the air conditioning. You're there to work. You're not there to be comfortable. You know, and God bless them. I mean, it's, you know, they pay you for honest days work. You better give it to them. You know.
Yeah. And they're very good. They're like the other thing that's interesting is that when my friend Shinichi designs the suits, I did some of the merchandising for some of the Godzilla movies back in the 90s, and recently I did some Topps cards merchandising, not Topps, Comic Images, sorry. And what I found interesting about over in Japan, when the guy who builds the suits work for it, he has to build all these suits to make the monsters in, except one they used was CG, and that was they did some CG work, but his entire deal is on a handshake basis. It was just literally they would just say, okay, you know, and we're going to pay you for this, da-dum, 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 and that's exactly what they do. You know, it wouldn't happen here. You know, it's like, but if the Japanese are very honest and they're very good for their word. And they're very, very gracious. That's what's very nice about it. Is like when you're doing or working with them, they're extremely gracious, and I found that to be true.
Yeah, and I worked for 4 years for New Japan Pro Wrestling on a handshake. You know, and it was great. You know, and they fulfilled their obligations, and you know, I fulfilled mine. I think. You know. I hope, you know, I mean, but yeah, pretty much Godzilla movie was pretty much a handshake deal there too, you know. And they give you the word, they're gonna stick by it, you know.
When they do something, they mean they're gonna do something, and it's just how they run it. Now they've kind of really changed Toho Studio. It's a Toho Studios, you understand it. It's a small studio. It's very quaint, I'll say it. There's got a lot of old buildings and stuff, and there's an old film about Akira Kurosawa, and you see old pictures of him running around Toho. There's the same building there. It's just rustier now, you know, and and a lot of the land they had in the back, they sold it off for real estate. It became more valuable for condo property in Japan, in Tokyo, than it did for making movies, because in recent years, Toho's been very good at distributing movies as opposed to making them, and they want to try their new approaches. They want to try international cooperations with people, because they're finding they can't do everything on their own. And the thing about Don's film, Godzilla Final Wars, was that He was the first American who had a major role with a lion's share of the dialogue. Than Nick Adams had. The last one you have to go back to was Nick Adams in Monster Zero from 1965. And so that was it's great when they do that. It's really good when they do that. When they were able to do that, because it gives the film an international feel, which it did with that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, And I got lucky too. Heck, I was there for the. How do I explain this without messing this up? I can't. They have a pond there, and one of their sets is a pond, and it's probably about 3 times the size of this room.
Right.
And the Godzilla movie was the last time they used that pond, and they filled it in. That thing's been there for 50 years.
Yeah, they tore it down.
Yeah.
They tore the whole thing down, and they had a ceremony when they tore it down.
Yeah.
They had a Buddhist ceremony when they tore it down. They had a guy come in and bless the whole thing, and then the blessing was done. They bowed to it, and I mean, it's really something to see. And they put their hands together, bowed to it the whole bit. And then next thing you see is these big cranes come in and they just destroy it, because it had given them so much service.
Yeah, I told them, I said, you got to bottle that water up and sell it.
Or the bolts, like pieces of the bolts.
Yeah.
I said you could sell that to I know 100 fans in the U.S. that would just buy those bolts.
Yeah, it was a piece of history that we were lucky enough to be around. Me or him? I've been there since '97, and I can speak enough Japanese to, find a bathroom, get a beer, get my face slapped. They always provide. Yeah. They always provide an interpreter. Plus Japanese always want to work on their English, so they're not going to give you the opportunity to mess up their language.
The Japanese love English. They love to speak English. It's like a dream to them. We were on the set of Mechagodzilla in 2002, and we're waiting around. There's a lot of waiting around in these things. We're waiting around on the street for the director to call order and get the set going. And there's a little girl who was with some people, and my friend Norman England, who is a writer, he teaches Japanese English lessons over there, so he knows Japanese fluently, and he's listening to her, and the girl was listening in on myself and Norman speaking English, and she's just sitting there, and she goes, she said in Japanese to her mother, "I want to learn English so bad."
It's a status thing.
Yeah.
Also, if easiest way to insult somebody in Japan, is you ask them something, and if they get cocky, say, "Oh, you don't speak English," and that's an insult. I mean, it's shame, because they should learn that.
What they also like is when you try to, I know a little bit of Japanese, but it's enough to get me by. And just "Ohayo gozaimasu," which means like good morning politely. That's what it means. And it means a little thing like that. When you come down from the hotel in the morning, it just means the world to them that you've said that. Even though you may not know, you could assassinate their language otherwise, at least you know that. It shows you're trying. And that means a lot to them. And what happened, I had a situation. I went to a toy shop in Japan, in Tokyo, and it was on a second level. There's all kinds of things. You can go up 6 to 10 levels above street level and find the most amazing places, like a restaurant or a store or whatever. And you get up there, and I bought something, and the guy's watching me walk around the store, and I walked up, and I said, "Arigato gozaimasu," like when he handed me the change. They present you with the change. They put it in a little dish, and they present it to you. And he saw it, and I kind of bowed a little bit when I did it. I said, "Arigato gozaimasu," like that. And he said, thank you very much." And he's this little guy with a punk haircut, the whole bit. He goes, thank you very much. It was fun. And there's all kinds of fun stuff. It's an amazing place. It's an absolutely amazing place to see, and it's a totally different culture in so many ways. But they also they're very much into American culture. They really like it a lot. Yeah.
Is Godzilla Final Wars the final Godzilla movie, or is there going to be another movie?
You know, that it's the final Godzilla movie with the suit. From now on, it's going to be, you know, CGI, and but I think that only lasts one or two times, and you know, and the fans are going to raise a stink about it, and they'll go back to the suit. But that was the original plan, yeah.
What they did was they brought Godzilla back in a cameo in a movie that you probably won't see here. It's called Always. And it's a period piece set in the 1950s, and it deals with a guy having a dream in one sequence, and his dream nightmare is about Godzilla. So they filmed this entirely new sequence. It looks a lot like War of the Worlds. You know the recent War of the Worlds remake when Tom Cruise is running, he's driving from, and there's all kinds of damage happening in back of him? It's the same sort of thing. This guy's in a little car driving down the street like a bat out of hell, and he's in this little tiny car, and you see a tail go, and then a foot comes over, and then the atomic breath just wipes out an entire row of stores. And then you see it as it turns around, and it's a CG Godzilla, computer-generated Godzilla, the first one. And they were trying to keep it real secret. It was like such it was the ultimate secret project at Toho, and it's only a 5-minute sequence, 5 or 10 minute sequence in this one film, and they spent like a fortune trying to make this thing right, and they were really didn't tell the press, and everybody was totally sworn to secrecy on what they were doing. And my feeling is the reason they're doing that is they wanted to see how it was going to look. They're trying it out to see how it's going to look. But I think they're not going to let a cash cow like Godzilla go away. In fact, what they're trying to do, it's not Toho, but Yoshimitsu Banno, who directed Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, he has acquired rights to the film to do Godzilla to the Max in 3. It's an IMAX movie. And it deals with Godzilla battling another monster that's trying to pollute things. And it's going to be filmed, apparently ILM is doing the effects for it too, or going to do the effects. He got some kind of backing. See, IMAX movies are not made by studios. They have to be made by corporate backing. You've got to get like Kodak or some big corporation to kick the money in, because the studios don't make them like the way we see the special IMAX movies. And it's just the way that the company works. It's just how those type of movies work. They're very IMAX movies, even though they've been perfected to a point, they're always experimental at the same time. They're always like, they want to see if they can do it. And the studios won't back a movie that's like 40 minutes to an hour long, right? Say like, you know, you've seen these dinosaur movies they do in IMAX and space movies. Really none of them are longer than an hour, because they wanted to do, so they've got this idea to do this Godzilla movie that would be about an hour long, and it would be him battling this pollution ecological monster called Deathra, and it's sort of like Hydra, but it's more advanced. And at first they were going to do the special effects in Japan.
Well, you're letting the cat out of the bag here, aren't
yeah.
you?
Well, this is all public. It's all public. Yeah.
No more top secret. Eh?
No more top. This is not top secret. This was like so they were trying to like go to. It was a public thing. Kerner Optical and ILM is going to do the effects for it, and Bono's company released the information on it. So, it's and I don't know when it'll be coming out. I have no idea. So.
Well, I had a hell of a time over there on that set. They picked me up. Ruhei Kanamura, hired me to play that part, and they had to introduce me, give me an agent, and had a driver and a translator and a cook and a personal assistant and all that. And I told my wife that, and she says, "I hope you don't expect that when you get home." No, honey. But the kids, they brought Molly and the kids over there for a week, and let them watch a couple of scenes of a couple of scenes being shot, and then they took the girls. Hell, the girls were only 4 or 5 at that time, and took them over to the set where the monsters were, and the guys, trying to explain to them, says, "Now, don't be scared. These are all fake. They're just rubber suits. It's all pretend. So don't be frightened. You know, because you get little kids this. Next thing you know, the girls are poking on the tail and grabbing it and pulling it. And he's like, no, 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 no. He scared the crap out of him, I'll tell you. The whole island or just Tokyo? No, I wrestled there. You know, like I said, I've been working there for a decade, so I've seen the island from Sapporo, you know, Hokkaido, all the way down, you know, yeah, all over the country. So it's beautiful. You know, it's nice. You know, the only bad thing, you know, was Hiroshima. You know, and when saw that memorial, that's something everybody's got to do. You know, I mean that's something really eerie. You know. It'd be like, you know, you gotta go see that, you gotta go see Auschwitz, you know, so things that make you remember the past, because they're not teaching history in school anymore. You know, they're trying to ignore what has happened in the past, and we can't ignore, we can't forget. Yeah, and so that's what we're doing. We're dumbing down our education system, and you know, history repeats itself, and that's what people got to remember. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about moving to New Zealand. And I'm a flag waving American, Bertner, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Yeah, New Zealand's beautiful. No, just, yeah.
I went down there in 2004. We were going to. So my wife's Australian, so it was easy for us to go. We're going on the way home to see her family, and I wrote Richard Taylor Weta Workshop, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be in New Zealand." You know, it's like saying, "Wow, I'm going to be in Texas." You know, you know, it's a big country, but we said we could. And he invited me to stop by, so I stopped by and got to see the Lord of the Rings stuff and part of King Kong, although they couldn't tell me it was King Kong. They were like, "Oh, we can't talk." They said, I said, "Yeah, well, you got these dinosaurs over there like that." They go, "Oh, you didn't see dinosaurs?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And they go, "Yeah," like that, you know. So I think that New Zealand's a beautiful country. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the rain is. It's weird though with the weather. You can go from beautiful sun. It's like Hawaii. If you've been to Hawaii. You go from beautiful sun, and then you go round a corner of a mountain, and it's pouring rain. Yeah. Like absolutely drenching down rain, and you go round again, and it's sunlight.
Oh, so it's like New Hampshire.
New Zealand is Australia's Canada. Basically, that's the way it's looked at. They're kind of the little other
redhead stepchild, huh?
Yeah, and
maybe the red hair, but I would just I never lived there, but pretty much didn't have a residence there, but 1 year I worked 25 weeks over there. Yeah, so you know, I'd fly over there, you know, work for a week or two, and then fly home for 10 days, and fly back over there for a week or two, and then come back home for 10 days, and you know, just long enough to get the wife pregnant, and then get out of there, you know.
How many hours does it fly from Arizona out there?
You know, it's 24 hours door to door. You know, by the time you drive to the airport and check in and go over that, but you know, it's an hour and a half from Tucson to L.A. and then L.A.'s 11 and a half L.A. to Narita. You know, so but yeah, it's a barn burner of a trip though.
Yeah, we would leave from Newark, New Jersey, and they would go polar route. It would go slightly over up over northern bit of Alaska and down, and you come in off the Korean coast. You do this big curl like that, and that trip going over is 13 hours, and you leave in the morning and the sun is out the whole time, so when you get there it's 5 in the afternoon, and if you go in there summertime, it's still sun's out, and you're like, hey, you know, wow, it's only 5 o'clock. But what has happened is you've lost an entire day. You've flown through the other day and you've lost this entire day. So now you start about 8 o'clock, you're going, whoa. You get really tired really fast. But I'll tell you what's worse, coming back. When you come back to the U.S., you just feel like a truck hit you. It's like getting the flu, except none of the respiratory stuff. You just feel about 1, 2 in the afternoon, you can't even keep your head up. It's a hell of a trip. It really is. Australia beats it, though. Australia beats that, I would say. But we enjoy. I've been to Japan. I've been around a lot of Japan, seen a lot of Tokyo, and a lot of the old stuff. We have a part-time Buddhist priest friend of ours, and he showed us some of the old temples and things like that. It's really something to see because the history just goes back thousands of years. And they were a totally different culture. They've gone through all these different cultures. So it's really, really, really amazing to see. And my happy trip memory from Japan is like going on a subway. They have all these different lines that go all around the city, and they're all on time. They're like on time, like you know, in a half second it'll be there. And we get in the subway car, and we get to one thing, and the doors pop open, and I hear dun 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 dun. I'm going, it's the Astro Boy theme. And I said to my friend, who was my interpreter, I said, what is Astro Boy? I said, Astro Boy. And he says, yes. He goes, he says, he was born here in this district. So they dedicated the station to him. And now when you walk through the station, they call him the Mighty Atom over there. They dedicated the station. You have the Astro Boy theme music and all these murals and statues and everything. And all these businessmen going about their day in their gray suits, and they're walking by all these Astro Boy stuff. It's really amazing to see. You wouldn't see that in New York.
How did you first get into Godzilla, Bob? I mean, was it the movies?
I was 6 years old, and my mom gave me a game called the Godzilla game, and it was love at first sight.
So like a board?
Yeah, board game. It's a cheap little 69-cent board game that you would get from the department store. That was a Christmas present in 1966, you know. And love at first sight. I said, I'm going to follow this guy forever.
And when did you start throwing?
4 years later. And the teachers always said, where's Godzilla ever going to get you in life? They tell me that. I'm sitting in the boardroom at Toho, and they've got my artwork up on the thing with all of their Japanese Academy Awards, and I'm like, it's cool. Which comics? I did the Godzilla Dark Horse comics, and I did some stuff in the 90s, Predator, a few other things like that. And then I haven't done anything lately, although I'm working on a graphic novel with a director friend. It's about a robot. So. John wrote a really good script, and John Davis is the script. He wrote the script, and he wrote the Ant Bully, which he used both of us on. Which is so this is how we're all incestuously connected, and I think that's kind of cool too. You know, we're all connected because John hired me to work on Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. I originally worked on Jimmy Neutron because John is a huge raging Godzilla fanatic, and he wanted a giant monster for Jimmy Neutron, so I designed Poltra in that. So.
Do you miss wrestling, or what do you think of the circuit now? Like how it's going now?
The fighting or the wrestling?
Let's start with wrestling. You miss the wrestling?
No, but I miss the money. Yeah, I tell you that. You know, the WWE's kind of gone real downhill. You know, it's just not wrestling anymore. You know, and it's it's not a decent product to be putting out there. And I mean, you used to be able to take your whole family to the wrestling matches. You know, and now it's more sex and innuendos and all that nonsense rather than the physical competition. But I guess they have to because, now people actually realize that it's, it's a scripted act rather than, when you see the real fighting going on, you see. But it's still entertaining, it's a story. And that they don't know how to tell a story anymore, to where, Lou Thez and Superstar Billy Graham, Bruno Sammartino, those guys could always tell a story in their match, Gorgeous George. And now it's who can do the highest flips and, crash most tables and stuff like that, And, the flash most flesh, it's just not the entertainment that it was meant to be.
I mean, I grew up watching it when I was young, like in the 80s and stuff, and so it was different.
Yeah.
Watching now, it's completely different.
It's really it'll turn you off, I mean, it's not the same product.
Yeah, it was fun. So I think the way like some of the guys were heroes, it was neat. But yeah, nowadays, you're right.
Well, it's like the Japanese, like we were talking last night. It's the Japanese Godzilla versus the Godzilla that they did in the U.S. a few years ago. It's you just don't compare the two. Yeah, the U.S. Godzilla, that was an abortion.
That's
that
what
was terrible.
Ryuhei wanted to do that. He wanted to kill the.
They hated it. Oh, they hated it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Because Godzilla is, an icon. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is partly why he didn't look the way he did. He looked different in that movie because they had to approve the look. And the feeling was, and it's very Japanese too, the feeling was if the movie bombs, we still save face because it's not our Godzilla. It's just the name. It's okay, and they've nicknamed him Zilla with an H at the end because they want to get away from him. I found that, I mean, they said to me, they always say to me, what did you think of the USA, they call it USA Godzilla. What did you think of USA Godzilla? And I said, and they go, thank you. I had to give 2 reports to Japan. One's to the head of Toho. He made me promise him that I would make a comment to him. They call it making a comment. When I saw the movie, he sent me an email and he said, Bob, please, Mr. Bob, he would say, please tell me your comment on Cloverfield when you see it. And so I wrote him back this whole sort of what I thought about it, because they thought it was going to be a lizard-like dinosaur creature, and it wasn't. It was a kind of a bald monkey thing, and it was like they're very curious about it. They were, I mean, even in August 2007, they just were dying to know what it looked like and what was it going to be like.
Well, that's good because what that tells you is that they're interested in getting back into the monster business, So they're letting us test the water for them. So sounds like they're gonna gearing up for another Godzilla.
I said to the president of Toho, and this might be a little bit of a harbinger of things to come. I said, Shogo Tomiyama, and I said, he produces all the Godzilla movies, including the one Don was in, and I said. He called me on his cell phone. This is cool. He called me on his cell phone, and he says, like, what did you think of, what did you think of Cloverfield? And then he saw it. So I called him, and I said, Tomiyama-san, what did you think of it? And he goes, fantastic. And for Japanese to say that is absolutely amazing. They either can say they liked it or they didn't, but to say fantastic, and he said, there is a future in this, is what he said to me. So we'll see.
Well, mine's Final Wars. So that's easy.
Going into 84. That's Godzilla 84. Yeah, that was Return of Godzilla. But see, there's three different lineages of Godzilla. My favorite Godzilla was from the Showa series, they call it. That was 1965. It's called Monster Zero, and that's the one where they bring Godzilla and Rodan to another planet to battle monsters, Ghidra. And that's my highly watchable one because it had several elements going about it. And then 1975, they ended that series of Godzilla films. And then in 84, they tried a reboot with a brand new series of films that none of which had happened before except the 1954 movie. That's sacred. And then in the 90s, in the Millennium series that Don was in, they did the same thing there. Nothing had happened. In fact, Godzilla Final Wars was a standalone movie. Nothing had happened in the previous Godzilla films in the previous years. The only two of the Millennium series of films were Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. They were two-part. But Final Wars and GMK, Megaguirus, and Godzilla 2000 were all standalone movies. The only history they all had was a 1954 movie. Monster Zero.
So UFC, what do you think?
You know, I think it's been watered down a lot. You know, I mean, they're kind of force feeding it down your throat, and it's just not the quality. Back when I was fighting, the guy showed up to fight. You know, I mean. Right. I mean, there's just, you know, they showed up to fight and there was no money into it. Nowadays, you know, these guys are showing up to be TV stars. You know, they want to be reality TV stars. They're more worried about their hair than they are worried about fighting. You know, I mean, it's just not a fight anymore. You know, I'm disappointed in it. Let's put it that way. No.
He did some ultimate fighting around here. Guy who was
Yeah. What weight is he?
he's like 140.
No, see.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's like 160, 180.
Yeah. No, see, I have a bad attitude. You know, if they're not a heavyweight, then I have no interest in them because they're not gonna make me any money. You know. If I can't fight them, I don't care about them. Yeah. They what? Yeah. Nah, it's just back in '95. Yeah. Started fighting. First few fights were free, you know, and then I got into UFC in '96. So, you know, but 95 I did half dozen fights, you know, but I wrestled in college and international, and then after college did a year and a half of professional boxing, you know, and then
How'd you like that? Boxing.
it was okay when I trained for it. When I didn't train for it and showed up, I got my butt thumped, you know. Yeah, you gotta be serious about it. And I was in a bad marriage, so, you know, wasn't getting any support, and so eventually I got out of sports altogether. I was a fireman for 7 years. On my days off, I'd shoe horses. And so one day, you know, wife come home and said she wanted to get a divorce, and I said, okay, how soon can you be out? You know, I called up Dan Severn and said, hey, how do you get me in on this UFC thing? And old Dan Severn, you know, saved my life. Yeah. He got me in a fight game, and then the fight game into pro wrestling in Japan, and then, you know, the pro wrestling went into the movies, you know, and I've got 4 commercials over there in Japan right now for cup of noodles, you know, it's UFO is what they call it, and yeah, it's a pretty good deal, yeah. Yeah. It just all depends, you know. I mean, I just got done shooting one earlier this year. I was in Chicago for 3 months, doing Public Enemies with Johnny Depp and Christian Bale and Stephen Lang, you know, and I just followed Stephen Lang around and just shot people, you know. It's pretty simple, you know. They said, we'll give you 4 lines, otherwise you just pull the trigger, you know. Yeah, but I was over there in Japan doing the commercial. So I'm over there, you know, with the driver and, you know, and the whole setup, you know, you have the personal chef and, you know, the agent and the Skyrise Hotel, you know, doing commercial. And my wife calls me and says, you know, Michael Mann called for you. I go, what? She said, Michael Mann called for you. And, you know, we're shooting a movie and want you over here to do a movie. I go, okay, great. We'll get some information. So, you know, I'm in Don Frye mode when I'm over there in Japan, you know. I'm thinking, God, Michael Mann calling for me. Well, get home, come find out as an assistant to an assistant to an assistant, you know, Michael Mann. And, you know, I got over there and I'm thinking, well, hell, you know, Michael Mann called and he wants me to come in and star in his movie, you know. So get over there and Christian Bale and Stephen Lang, you know, Mann calls him over to discuss a scene. So, you know, I trot up there like, you know, I'm part of the scene too. And he looks at me and says, Don, go stand over there. So, hot damn, I'm a flunky. I can handle that. No pressure. All the pressure was off then. Yeah. Didn't have to worry about no lines. Yes, sir.
When you first started getting interested in the works of Lovecraft, and when did that
Okay, when I first started getting interested in H.P. Lovecraft's work, well, I live in Providence. I live near Providence. And I got very drawn to the author's work, and I started doing paintings and drawings, and people asked me to do them for magazines and books and stuff like that. So it all sort of gelled together, you know. And I just really loved it because I made a kind of a monster connection to it, because it's like you've got Lovecraft's got these great wild giant monsters and they're misunderstood aliens and things like that. What's that?
I was laughing at your analogy.
Yeah.
Misunderstood aliens?
Yeah, misunderstood alien creatures that people think are like demons and monsters from Elder Worlds. I mean, that was a great H.P. Lovecraft thing that he would do. And it was just nice to be able to be part of that, you know, and there's a whole Lovecraft culture, subculture, if you will, that really, you know, they really get into that, and they're great to talk to. And I think my big thrill was being included in this Art of H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a $400 book from Centipede Press, and it's online. It's this thick, I swear to God, by this big. The physical book. So when you hear $400 for a book, but it's worth $400.
It's just for shipping, right?
Yeah, yeah. You need, when the postal guy delivered it, I thought it was like, boom, like that, you know?
Sued you for a hernia.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, I mean, a huge, thick book. And for me, it's a real honor being in it, because I'm in it with all these great Lovecraft artists of like Weird Tales, and I mean, it's this lineage that's going along. It's great. It's,
Did your Lovecraft work inspire any of his work you did on the Godzilla movie? Or
to me, it's like I make this connection. I have this connection where I enjoy any kind of really weird monsters, and that includes Godzilla, any of that sort of ilk. And I tie the H.P. Lovecraft into it too. I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, you should paint Godzilla versus Cthulhu," you know, that sort of thing. You know, I don't know how that would work out, but it's just like I just like that kind of mythology. It's all part of mythology, because the Lovecraft creatures, they have mythology to them. Godzilla is part of a mythology. It's part of mythology of the Japanese call it kaiju. It's a monster from the mystical pasts. And we don't know the origin exactly. We don't know where it came from, but it's just this mysterious monster of something of nature. And when you think about it, Lovecraft is the same thing. So as strange as that is, that connection is, it's there.
were there any monster ideas for Godzilla that were ever rejected? Because I've seen him fighting giant dragonflies, giant jellyfish, and stuff like that.
What, film-wise? Oh, yeah, they were going to do him battling robots, and that turned into Gunhead in 1987. They just kicked him out of the picture. And there was another one where he was going to battle something else that got kicked out of the movie, too. And then another one where he was going to battle his ghost, his nuclear ghost. And that was one of the ideas they were coming up with for Final Wars at one point. They had all these ideas they were bandying around, and it just didn't, some things just didn't happen, you know. What's that? Yeah, like, well, Godzilla from the past it would have been, because see, there's two different Godzillas. The first Godzilla died, the very first one died. The second one, they don't know where it came from. It's another Godzilla, and that's all it's described as. It's not the original, no. None of what you see ever on the screen, the original Godzilla died. Everything preceding that is there are other Godzillas. There's a great scene in Final Wars that opens the film. It's supposed to be like in 1974, like when you're younger and on the Gotengo, and I think it's supposed to be 1974 because I think Ryohei Kitamura had this thing about the year 1974 I'd read where he wanted a lot of his favorite movies came out then or something. So there's a scene where it takes place then, and then they trap Godzilla in the Antarctic ice. And later on, Don's character is explaining that he trapped him there years ago, they don't say 30 years ago, but that's what we assume it is. And you're going to wake him up again, and had that shot. I thought it was a really good shot that where they had the younger guy.
Oh, I thought it was terrible. You could have put a mustache on the boy or something.
Yeah, they sort of like had him go, ah, like that, and then, you know.
It didn't look anything like me, I'll tell you.
But it was a cute effect what they did.
He was thin, you know, and young, and no mustache. It's a shame.
See, the problem is most of the gaijins, as they call them, they hire in a Toho movie. They don't have a lot of presence. They're walk-on appearances, and they don't. You know, it's kind of like they go, "Oh, look, a monster." You know, it's really. You know, they're not people with any screen presence or any kind of experience with that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. And then, you know, Don comes on and you got a lot of presence, and it's good to see that when they, you know, you have that kind of thing, because normally they have like one of my friend Norman England, who's not even an actor, he's a director and a writer. He got asked to be in the one that was before Final Wars, and he got to say the line cruise missiles at the opening of the picture because they'd hired a guy to do it and he wasn't doing it right. The guy kept on screwing up the line, and Mizaki Tezuka, who was the director, turns around and said, "No, I don't want him, get Norman." And they put Norman, and they gave him an outfit to wear, and his line was, you know, cruise missiles. And he would say, "Well, you know, should I say it like that?" It's like, no, it's the Japanese, they have their way, they'll do it the way they say it, and that's how it works. So it's very interesting to watch that happen. You get like Don, or you get Nick Adams, or somebody like that, and you have somebody with presence on the screen, and it really it shows.
A lot of fun, you know. So. A lot of fun.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Well, my dad was in the Air Force, so, you know, grow up on military bases, and all the kids come back from Japan, you know, the old 8mm reels of the Godzilla movies, and that's how I got introduced to it when I was in the second grade, you know. So, you know, so from second grade on up, you know, and then they ask you if you want to be in a Godzilla movie. You know, that was a dream come true. You know, I'd have done it for free, but shit, they paid me. I was real happy about that. Yeah, I'm gonna go down to Manhattan here on Monday and get killed. So that'll be good, you know. And then after that, I don't know. I never, not good at planning. I just wait for the phone to ring, and then I just pack my gear and go, you know.
I'm writing a book about dragons. I've got a lot of irons in the fire at the moment, lots of stuff going on, and I'm busy with work which is great in this economy. It's really good for artwork and all that. You know, it's really good. So I'm busy I'd say I'm busy into at least March or May of next year. Doing a bunch of book covers, doing something. There might be something. There's a graphic novel I'm working on. There might be some other things coming along too, which you never know. It's like Don, it's like the phone rings and you never know what'll be on the end of it. And but it's nice to slow down a little bit around the holidays because I'm usually like busy and it's like, oh, it's just so nice to be able to sit down and not work a weekend.
It drives my wife crazy. My wife's a type A personality, She's got to have her whole month planned out, And I don't. Shit, I get up, we wake up, and she said, "What are you gonna do today?" I don't know. Hell, I don't care. I figure I'll go get some coffee and go eat breakfast, and then see what happens from there, And she goes nuts, and like I said, phone rings. I pack my gear and on an airplane. That's just the way it goes. Yeah, it's a. Yeah, she got to, like I said, she takes us out and we go somewhere. She got to go out and buy the book, on the town and plan out and chart out the scenic routes and everything she got to see. And, I'm like, I'm just happy that the plane lands and we're in the hotel. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a goofy question. I watched The Amazing Race, kind of like a fan of The Amazing Race, and they did a segment one season where they ended up in Japan, and two of the contestants had facial hair, like you two. Right. And the women in Japan, they were on public transportation and went berserk with their beards. They just went. Is this like just something that happened on the show, or is that actually something that goes on over there? They just went. They were like asking to feel their beards, and they were like scraggly. It was down here, hippie type beard. Did that ever happen to you guys when you were over there, or is this just something that's going on for over there?
Not me. Like I said, started out as a pro wrestler and I was a bad guy, so everybody over there is afraid of me. So no, nobody has to touch me. Yeah.
Facial hair is very rare on Japanese males, and when they see this, they look and they'll say, "Oh, they look and there's a curious factor. Like I had these like a bunch of like little girls that were like chasing us, myself and my wife down the street, and they're just kind of looking at us. And they went to a Western bar. It was like a themed like Elvis in the West or something, and there was all Western music and country music playing and Elvis music playing, and everybody was dressed in cowboy hats and everything, and they were just looking over. Yeah, this was in it was outside of Tokyo, and they were just looking at it. They had American hamburgers, and they prided themselves in that sort of style of food. And you went in, and they were just looking at me like they just. And I think it was the hair and the whole 9 yards. But I've had women that like my hair over there, and they're very good friends, and they're married and everything, and they know that. But there's none of that goes on. But they like it. I could tell you a really funny story that my wife wouldn't appreciate me telling you, but it just, okay. She's right outside the door. We were at a saloon, as they call, or salon as they call it, and there was the conversation going on with friends of mine down the end of the table. They were all talking in Japanese. My wife is there, and they're saying, we are trying to say that Bob-san, they say Bob-san, he would be Don-san. Bob-san is a very rich man. It's like, well, we get to the bottom of this conversation, and what it was is they were impressed with her chest size. And they wanted to know if there were any more women in Australia that were like that. But they were saying in the nicest possible terms, Bob is treasure, he's a rich man because of this, like that. And I'm sitting there going, in the U.S., this conversation will result in a fight, but like here, it's somehow charming.
Japanese makes everything sound better.
Oh yeah, it's just because it was total sincere admiration in every way. So it's a very different culture. They have these interesting ways, but it's very fun to see. I've experienced it. I know Don has, and it's really interesting to see.
Were they scared of you, or were they nice to you? Like
They're scared of me, you know. Yeah. You know, unless they're paying me, then they tell me what they want me to do and how to do it, and they, you know.
Did you ever see the movie Lost in Translation with Bill Murray? That just about hits things right on the head. It's perfect.
That's it right there, boy. I'll tell you.
When the guy, he's giving him the directions.
Giving the directions, he goes on, ram, turn left.
Turn left. Is that all he said?
Yeah.
That happened at Toho. I'd given the Tomiyama a picture of Godzilla. He brought the entire effects crew around to see it, and they're filing by it, and you can hear, and it's going back and forth. And my friend who's interpreting, he goes, "Oh,
this is nice.
They liked it," like that, and they're all like, just going on and on. I said, "What are they saying?" And he goes, "Oh, they like it. It's very nice." I said, "That's all they're saying." Yeah, I've been there. I've been to his grave site, and they don't let people go to the grave site anymore.
Yeah, I went by that. So they don't have any beachfronts to see this guy. I think it's kind of
Lovecraft is known everywhere in the world. I had a guy from Romania come up to me and go, "Providence, Lovecraft," like that when he saw my badge at the convention I was at. But when Providence, you ask them who H.P. Lovecraft was, and they'll say, "Well, I think I heard of him. Is that a store?" It's like,
yeah, it's weird. And I heard his old house is like it's a I don't know, hotel or something.
yeah, it's basically there's one of his homes that they lived in. It's just somebody's house. They don't care.
If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the house that he lived in with his aunts, because he lived with two of his maiden aunts for like the longest part of his life. He was in Nevada. I think they actually moved it from the site that it was at to another location up on like Benefit or Angel.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah. No, he's the most they've got a memorial to him up near the John Hay Library, but beyond that, it's like it's a subculture of people that really gets it. And when you go outside in the world, he's like a superstar. But that's very Rhode Island. That's if you live in Rhode Island, that's very much the case. You can be a complete nobody in the own state, and then elsewhere they know you and like you and everything like that. But in Rhode Island, it's I don't know what it is. It's yes.
Is somebody still leaving a bottle of cognac on his grave?
I have no idea.
Or was that Poe?
I have no idea that he didn't get a tombstone until a few years ago because nobody wanted to admit he was buried.
Now, what did you say about they don't let people go to the grave?
Yeah, they shut the Swan Point Cemetery. They won't let anybody go there anymore to Lovecraft's grave.
They shut the whole cemetery?
No. You can go there, but if they see you near it, they'll chase you away.
Oh, they don't have it like cordoned off or anything, like gates or anything? No. Oh, that's weird.
Gives them something to do.
I mean, anybody who's working for a cemetery has to be a little weird, don't you think?
They're just strange. They're weird about culty people and stuff like that. I think it is 5. It's 5 past 5. I think that's it.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Pretty good. Thanks. Anything we didn't answer or left open? Trouble now.
Watch.
One more time for Mr. Bob Eggleton and Don Frye, our Kaiju guests, ladies and gentlemen.